Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And for today I've got something a little different. We're not taking a look at a brand new album. In fact, this album came out all the way back, it feels weird to say that, but all the way back in 2009. It's had revisions since, but this is very much, I think, the first album now dedicated to the 90s decade, and by the title it is. Now that's what I call the 90s. So let's have a look at this doohickey. As I said, I think this is the first now 90s album they did. I know they did individual years back in the day, but I think this was the first one that was called Now 90s. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But let's look at this cover. Interesting design. You got lots of reds, blues, yellows, whites, with these sort of balls going around here. At first I was like, is this like a pinball table kind of thing? I didn't know that was really associated with the 90s, or, you know, it could be a variety of things, but oddly enough, no matter what it is, I still think it fits quite well within the whole 90s aesthetic, if you want to call it that. So, nice cover, very nice silver sheen with the red trim, like that. And you'll notice this is in the good old Fatbox style CD. Yeah, when they used to release 3-disc albums. Something just fell off there, that's not good. 3-disc albums in this format. They don't do this much anymore, with Now at least, just because, well, you know, it's a lot of plastic, it's not that environmentally friendly, so it reminds us of what was. And look at that, 60 top #1 chart hits, so we're assuming every track on here is going to be a track that got to #1 in the 90s, so let's take a look and see what's on here. Okay, so CD1, Take That, Bat for Good. Classic Take That song. There was others that got to #1, I think, so I'm surprised it's that one. Love Is All Around by Wet Wet Wet, of course. That was #1 for something stupid like 14-15 weeks. You've got Elton John with Sacrifice. That was right at the start. I want to say that was even maybe 89. It was off an 89 album, but still. She's the One by Robbie Williams, great track. Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis, one that has become a classic for sure. You've got Deep Blue Something with Breakfast at Tiffany's, love that song. You've got Gabrielle with Dreams, All Saints Never Ever, Shakespeare's Sister with Stay, already some cracking stuff on here. You have Sinead O'Connor with Nothing Compares to You, again right at the start of the 90s, but a very beautiful track. The Beautiful South, A Little Time, wonderful. The Righteous Brothers with Unchained Melody, which of course was originally a song back in, I want to say like the 1950s, but the film Ghost made it a big hit again. You've got Ronan Keating with When You Say Nothing at All, Westlife, Flying Without Wings, Boyzone with No Matter What, love that song. Jason Donovan with Any Dream Will Do. And the last few on CD1, you've got I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys, because of course you do. You've got Jerry Halliwell with Mi Chico Latino. Spice Girls, speaking of them, with Spice Up Your Life, one of their many #1s. And Cher with the Shoop Shoop song, It's in His Kiss. That's 20 #1s right off the bat. Pretty stellar first disc, I've got to say. That is a cracking lineup. So let's move on now to CD2. So you can see it's not all, you know, not one-time artists. We've got repeats. Spice Girls are back again with Wanna Be. I mean, I'd be very surprised if they weren't on here at least more than once. You've got Hanson with Bap, which is a annoying classic to some people. Bring It All Back by S Club 7, wonderful. Tragedy by Steps, of course. Barbie Girl, Aqua, Blue Eiffel 65. Those few songs, those like last few, that really epitomize like the late 90s fun pop dance sound. It's a bit cheesy now, but it was, oh god, so much fun. You had to be there, man. You had to be there. Keep On Moving by 5, Britney Spears with Baby One More Time, Christina Aguilera, Genie in a Bottle, a certain individual there with I Believe I Can Fly, White Town with Your Woman. I'm not overly familiar with that one, actually, not by looking at it. I'm sure if I heard it, I'd probably recognise it. Blur with Country House, you've got Babylon Zoo with Spaceman, which, funnily enough, for those who are into their dates, Babylon Zoo was #1 around the time I was born. You've got Eternal, feat Bebe Winans, I think that says. My eyes are terrible, with I Wanna Be the Only One. George Michael with Fast Love. Live and Joy, Dreamer, classic dance track that is. Is that the Wamdoo Project? I think that says. King of My Castle, not familiar with that one. Baby D with Let Me Be Your Fantasy, again, another dance classic. Fatboy Slim with Praise You, and Meatloaf with I'd Do Anything for Love, but I won't do that. Again, another stellar list of tracks there. Only 2 or 3 I'm not overly familiar with, but it gets a great scope of the 90s. CD1 mainly got stuff from, well, primarily got stuff from the early part. We're getting later on. And now CD3. We start with back at the top of the decade with Adamski with Killer, which has Seal on the vocal. Great early track from the 90s there. You got Beats International, Don't Be Good to Me, equally good track. UB40, I Can't Help Falling in Love with You. Shaggy with Bombastic. Right Said Fred with Deeply Dippy. Oh, that's right, because technically you might be thinking, shouldn't it be I'm Too Sexy? Well, funnily enough, I'm Too Sexy, I believe, didn't hit number 1. I think it was number 2, or maybe that was the US. But yes, it's not the obvious one. Erasure would Take a Chance on Me, of course, their cover of the ABBA classic. You've got Pato Banton feat. Ali and Robin Campbell with Baby Come Back, again a modern take on a classic song. You've got Chakademus and Players with Twist and Shout, another cover there. Simply Red with Fairground, I think they're only or one of few number 1s for them. Got Stiltskin with Inside, Vic Reeves and The Wonder Stuff with Dizzy, again another cover. A lot of covers in the 90s that got to number 1. Chesney Hawks with The One and Only, which often gets bandied in at 80s concerts, which is a bit weird. Vanilla Ice with Ice Ice Baby, because of course it is. The Steve Miller Band, The Joker. Now again, I think The Joker originally came out in the 70s, I want to say, and then got popular again. I could be wrong. You've got Charles Neddy with Would I Lie to You. Wonderful song there. You've got Tasmin Archer with Sleeping Satellite. Don't know that one by name. You've got Enigma with Sadness Part 1. A beautiful track. One of my favorite. Enigma, actually, one of my favorite 90s artists. I highly recommend you check out Enigma if you haven't heard of him. Maria McKee with Show Me Heaven. Beautiful ballad. You've got Boyzone with Words. And finally, E17 with Stay Another Day, which is not intended to be a Christmas song, but now ironically has become one, because I believe it got to number 1 at Christmas. So there you go. 60 tracks in total on a 3-disc album back in 2009. So you've seen the track list, and some of you might be like, I haven't seen a fat box CD in ages, so let's open it and see what we've got inside. Okay, so there is CD 1, just a standard red disc. I love how the text is almost small, it's not as pronounced. I've mentioned this style before in other videos, I like the minimalist approach. It has got a booklet, although it is mainly filled with production information. It doesn't give you any chart info, not like the main nows, although not even the main nows do that. So that's this half of the CD. Let's go to the other. Okie dokie, so we're carrying on with that whole minimalistic design. You've got the blue disc here, and you've got a yellow disc here. Wonderful. And something that isn't there, because it wouldn't fit properly, but it did come with it, is a postal address. This used to happen. So, if you wanted to win 50 CDs, goodness me, you had to fill in all this information and post it in. That's right, to even be in the chance of winning. They were doing this as late as 2009. I love these little tidbits because it reminds me of things like, you know, when ringtones were a big thing? It's sort of similar to that. But yeah, I just thought that was a fun tidbit. But the design of these CDs, yeah, I really like them. I love the primary colours. I love the minimalist text. I just wish they did that more often. So with that being the inside of the album, is this one worth it for you? Well, of course, this is quite an old album, 2009 again it came out. They have done revisions, I believe one came out in 2014. There's been numerous, I think, 100-hit albums, like you've got Forgotten 90s. Basically, this concept is no longer new and unique. It might have been the first of the now 90s albums, but it is certainly not the last. Obviously, you can't buy it in shops anymore, so you're going to have to be searching either around charity shops, or, alternatively, where I got it from Music Magpie. They've actually been great in the past for helping me find, I'd say, like more obscure now albums for decent prices. I think this was only like £2 or £3. It wobbles up in price every now and then, but yeah, Music Magpie is a great resource if you want to pick up old now CDs like this. If you're not a fan of 90s pop, stay well away, it's pretty obvious. But especially if you grew up in that time or you like a lot of that sound, this isn't a bad album to get. Other albums might have more tracks and different themes, always research your track list, but for a first attempt, I think Now did a pretty good job. But that's all for this installment of the Now Review. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please do leave a like on this video and let me know in those comments down below. Did you pick up this album back in 2009 or did you pass on it? Do you think some of the newer 90s albums are better? Let me know. I want to get your opinions. And also, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until the next one, I will see you guys next time. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Hooks Media, Ben Freeman, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, The Broken Kitsumanoid, Tobos Krotz, and Polsky Liz, our AMTV staff members.